Welcome everyone to our press conference, Rights of Nature is a Systemic Solution to the Climate Crisis. This is co-hosted by the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, WECAN, Movement Rights, and the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature. And I want to very much thank my colleagues for participating in this press conference to share their important perspective and ideas. I have sitting next to me Casey Camp Horinek from the Ponca Nation. She's the environmental ambassador for Ponca and a Women's Earth and Climate Action Network board member and a Movement Rights board member. And then we will be also hearing from Nemo Bassi. He is the coordinator for the Health of Mother Earth Foundation and environmental justice advocate from Nigeria. And we're really honored to have you be with us today. So I'm going to be doing some opening comments because a lot of people here have been asking me about rights of nature. So I'm going to give like a basic overview. We're living in a time in which we must really change everything about how we're living with Mother Earth and each other. The urgency of the climate and ecological crisis really demand that we completely redesign our economic, social, and legal systems. In our global movements for rights of nature, we are looking for a revolutionary and evolutionary change for society. And at the heart of it, we're asking, how can we transform our dysfunctional environmental laws and neoliberal economic systems that are literally destroying people and planet? I also want to acknowledge that much of the vision and worldview of rights of nature frameworks come from Indigenous peoples around the world and their knowledge of the natural laws of our Mother Earth. We have a lot to learn from their original instructions, and our Indigenous sisters and brothers are carrying this knowledge, which deeply inform the core principles of rights of nature. After decades of environmental protection laws, which have achieved some notable successes, our modern legal systems have really failed to prevent the increasing grave threats of global warming, degradation of the Earth's sacred systems of life, and the growing displacement and death of humans and our species. So these systems that we're in are not working. In particular, there's concern for Indigenous and frontline communities of color who bear the worst impacts of disasters because of environmental racism and other social injustices. So to truly live sustainably and live in harmony with Mother Earth, we need to change the very foundations, the very structural DNA of our legal frameworks to respect the natural laws of the Earth. Today, the majority of the world's legal frameworks are based on treating nature as property. Our life-giving rivers, our forests, and mountains are treated as property to be sold and consumed. And as property, these natural communities and ecosystems are not recognized as rights holders. So in most legal court systems, because nature is property, the courts don't recognize it. By maintaining this current structure of law, we are furthering a dangerous human relationship to the natural world of ownership and exploitation. We have to ask, why haven't we stopped these destructive actions that are not only lethal, but also legal under our laws? We need an entirely different legal configuration that recognizes that the Earth's living systems are not the enslaved property of humans. And a primary premise of the rights of nature movement is that in order to ensure a thriving future, humans must reorient ourselves from an exploitive and ultimately self-destructive relationship with nature to one that honors the deep interrelationship of all life and contributes to the health and integrity of the natural world and upholds a relationship of reciprocity. An essential step in achieving this is to create a system of jurisprudence that sees and treats nature as a fundamental rights-bearing entity and not as property to be exploited. In our movements, we advocate that breaking out of the human-centered limitations of our current legal systems is one of the most transformative and highly leveraged actions that humanity can take to create a healthy and just future for all. And as climate disruption and environmental degradation increases globally, it could not be more important to highlight that exploitation and extractivism is a result of patriarchal societies, colonization, racism, and neoliberal capitalism. which are all based on the same systems and ideologies of power over and exploitation of women, Indigenous peoples, peoples of color, and the land. It's clear the global community needs to address these systems of oppression in an intersectional manner to move towards justice and real solutions, and Rights of Nature can offer a vital path towards this effort. What we are seeing in our collective work globally is that people's movements are rising to say no to the commodification of our Mother Earth and sky. Our earth and atmosphere are not for sale. We don't want our sacred earth, water, air, and forests in the marketplace. We don't want to see carbon offset programs. These are false solutions to the climate crisis. Instead, we want to see pollution stopped at the source and for governments, corporate actors, and all of us to live with respect and reciprocity with Mother Earth. We cannot keep taking and taking, or very simply, humans will not survive. Like Mother Earth's immune system, people are rising up in their communities worldwide to say yes to rights of nature. Let's change our laws to live in harmony with life. And in fact, we are an ever-growing movement. At the national level in 2008, Ecuador became the first country in the world to recognize rights of nature in its constitution. Local rights of nature ordinances in the United States today are protecting communities from harmful practices such as shale, gas drilling, and fracking. And there have been over 36 ordinances that have passed in the U.S. The Ponca Nation has made history in the first tribe in the U.S. to recognize rights of nature in law to protect their territory from fossil fuel extraction. In New Zealand, the Parliament has given the Wanganui River legal standing. The Colombian Supreme Court has recognized rights of the Amazon River ecosystem. So yes, and I could give you so many more examples, rights of nature is an idea whose time has come. Today, WECAN, along with our partners, Movement Rights and the Global Alliance for Rights in Nature, are releasing a report here today at COP27 because we want to show how climate crisis must be addressed as a deeply transformative and at a systemic level. In this report, Rights of Nature, Redefining Global Climate Solutions and Environmental Protection for Systemic Change, we show how and why Rights of Nature is one of the world's fastest growing environmental movements. It's truly growing exponentially right now. And we chart out the enormous growth of the movement in the past 2 years, highlighting that the Rights of Nature movement has become law in over 20 countries, with several more under consideration. So it's in 20 countries now. When implemented, these laws have been used to stop fossil fuel extraction, mining, dams, and other harmful developmental projects. So we invite all of you to support Rights of Nature efforts globally as we call for systemic change and a new way of living with our Mother Earth that is in balance with the natural laws. So we encourage you to go look for this on our website and to learn a lot more details about a lot of the achievements over the last few years. And with that, I'm very honored to hand the floor to Casey Camp Horinek. Thank you.
Latia Juzi Witike Ponca Abdi, Manchte Ponca, Oklahoma. Juzi is my true name. My colonized name is Casey Camp Horinek. I'm a Ponca woman from the occupied territory of Oklahoma, USA. My people, the Ponca, meaning sacred head, are originally from a territory in the northern plains of Turtle Island, or now called the United States of America, in a place called Nebraska, that they now call Nebraska. They don't know how to talk Ponca or nothing over there. Nebraska is water that is flat because we lived on the largest aquifer in Turtle Island. And it was between two sacred rivers that Wakanda placed us, the Great Spirit placed us, Nishude and Nibalala. Nishude is the Missouri River now, But for us, it is the river where the spirits walk. It's called the Smoking Waters. The spirits walk there, especially in the mornings and in the evenings, and they instruct us for our day's duties and our night's dreams. Nibadada is the swift-running water that goes fast over the rocks there and keeps a purification system that was strong and balanced. In that period of time that belonged to my grandparents when they were children in the late 1800s, when the generations of our Ponca lived there, we ceded in 5 treaties 2.5 million acres of territory that we were caretakers of, with 19 different village sites where we moved on a regular basis in order to not burden our Mother the Earth with our waste or to overgrow or to overuse, but to always be in harmony with sometime a winter camp, a spring camp, a summer camp, a fall camp, sometimes a gathering place. The federal government of the United States, utilizing the doctrine of discovery from the early 1400s, came then into our territory up Nishude, or the Missouri River, and began to claim our territory and to claim more and more and more, and set many of the Northern Plains tribes against one another because we needed our hunting territory. We needed our buffalo that were our brothers and sisters in the natural cycle of being. We needed the waters and the sacred corns that taught us how to be. We needed the Thunder Nations. In that period of time, as we began to cede more and more in treaties, they moved us by force from that territory. They said, you no longer may live here. You leave behind your seed, your fun, hunting, your fishing, your homes, and the territories of our original ways, and moved us into a territory they called the Indian Territory, Oklahoma. 39 federally recognized tribes exist there now. Only 3 are indigenous. The rest of us had a trail of tears. My people were reduced to under 500 at that time. In that period of time, if you don't know of the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, we are born with a law over us, the power of attorney more or less by the Bureau of Indian Affairs that says that they can decide how our government should be structured, that we must model themselves after their failing government, that they had the right to break every treaty. They had a right to continue a form of genocide, whether it was the smallpox blankets or fast forward into today, and that genocide is done to us by ConocoPhillips, by the fracking and injection wells, by the man camps that come through our territories, by the defiling of the earth herself, by the farmers putting all their chemicals into the earth, by the climate change that has killed our relatives, the forelegs, the fins, the waters, the airs. So as a result of that, we have begun to reestablish what was true within the natural laws that always will exist. Humankind, we're on the brink of extinction ourselves because we have refused to accept the fact that we are not separate from nature, but we in fact are nature. We eat, we drink, we breathe of those things that others call nature, and that creates these bodies over our spirits that we wear. So the Ponca have begun to reestablish within our own sovereign laws this thing called rights of nature, first in 2017 to protect the area that we're in, and therefore our Ponca people and all of our relatives, even those same rancher farmers and Conoco workers that are killing us. And in July of this year, we also recognized the rights of the two sacred rivers that surround us for the same reason, because fracking water is being dumped in there, because fish kills are happening. But the rights of nature is not something that we are saying, oh, we're giving you that. What we're doing is recognizing what always has been and always will be. The earth will endure. Do we as humans choose, as movement rights says, to align human law with natural law? And when those things come together, then we have a way forward for our generations. That's why rights of nature works for me, and I thank WECAN, Movement Rights, and Garn for their support in this. Sean.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Casey. And I also wanted to mention that Casey is also the leader of the Indigenous Council for the Global Alliance for Rights of Nature, to really bring forward the voice of Indigenous peoples in the rights of nature movement, again, because of that link of understanding that it has always been this way with Indigenous people. And so rights of nature law is really actually helping the modern world catch up to what Indigenous worldviews have already been living for millennium. And with that, I'm very honored to hand the floor to Nemo Bassi. Thank you, Nemo.
Thank you so much, Osprey, and thanks, Cassie, for allowing me to call you by that name. We all know you as Cassie, so thank you. Really, I believe that the climate crisis is a crisis of care, a crisis in which humans have knowingly ignored Mother Earth. It's a crisis of humans who have refused to recognize who their mother is. It's just like in normal human relationships. If you dishonor your mother, it shows that you are a peculiar child. And now if we understand that the earth is our mother, and we keep dishonoring her, we keep destroying her children, our other relatives, and then it shows that we have really gone in the wrong direction. And so for us to return to the path of sanity, to the path of walking right with Mother Earth, we have to recognize the fact that we must care. We must care for her children, care for our home. The earth is our home. The earth is our mother. The earth is our everything. And it's always very funny when I hear people look at trees, say they see trees as carbon sinks, or they see whales and elephants or lions or some other animals as possible carbon sinks. They see the ocean as a carbon sink, the soil as a carbon sink, forgetting that we are also made up of a whole lot of carbon, and we could as well be the carbon sinks. Now, if we don't want to recognize ourselves as carbon sinks, it means that our own thinking needs to be re-examined. It also exposes the fact that many of the constructs that we bring to the COP are actually very false in the imagination, in the imaginaries, and in the plans we're making. And this is extremely important. One of the very clear reasons why we have the problems we're having today in terms of climate crisis and other crises related to it is because we tend to think that we can always exploit Mother Earth. Sometimes we think human. When I say we, I mean humans, and sometimes when I say we and humans, I'm not talking about the grassroots. I'm talking about those who are exploiting and destroying, the corporations. Believe that they can make Mother Earth more efficient. For example, genetically engineering trees to have higher levels of carbon. Or that we could help the oceans absorb more carbon through geoengineering. You know, we always find a reason to distort the cycles of nature for profit. And if there's an African proverb that says that when a child burns down the father's house, he or she inherits the ashes. And so if we disrupt the cycles of nature destroy our home. What we're aiming for is a future made up of only ashes. This is why the rights of Mother Earth is extremely important and must be the fundamental right that every citizen of this planet depends on or promotes, and which every nation should integrate in their national constitutions. I was extremely excited at Cochabamba in 2010, yes, April 2010, when the rights of nature was globally adopted by the peoples who met over just 2 days, quite different from the Conference of Parties or Conference of Polluters that have been meeting for 27 years, and every year is a retrogression, looking for how to avoid action. Just in this COP, we've heard that even the fig leaf called loss and damage have been pushed forward to the next COP. Loss and damage would never have cannot solve the climate crisis, but just a token recognition that humans must be accountable for the harm that they inflict on our mother. And yet the COP says we're going to have time. We can talk about this in the future. The kind of inequality that we see in the COP, the lack of democracy in the COP spaces, the kind of geopolitics that we see at the COP space is really extremely annoying. Because although every nation has one vote, we do know that the UN system itself is problematic. That sometimes one vote doesn't count. Sometimes one vote is ignored. But here we insist that if the COP does not want to discuss loss and damage, which we don't even promote anyway, but which we believe is a tiny bit of something that ought to be talked about, the COP itself is lost and damaged. The COP itself is broken, completely broken. And we have to start planning to have counter COPs globally and not come here for rituals that don't help any of us, that don't help Mother Earth or all our other relatives. Now, as I wind down, seeing that I have 20 more minutes, the mindset that has destroyed our planet is that of subtraction, that of extractivism. Extractivism doesn't add to Mother Earth, subtract, takes. And if you keep on taking, and you don't add anything, you are simply destructive. And so the rights of Mother Earth does not only declare the rights of our planet, of our mother, it also has the obligations of humans. And I'm ending with this. The obligations of humans not to disrupt the natural cycles of Mother Earth. There is obligation for humans to make restitution, reparation, wherever any damage has been done, to make sure that is repaired and rectified. All those obligations must be something that we cannot ignore. And so, brothers and sisters, let's just remind ourselves one more time. We are not apart from nature. We are not higher than any other species on planet Earth. If we kill all the butterflies, kill all the bees, humans won't survive for more than just a few more weeks or months. And so let's be humble to know that we're just part of a complex system. A privilege for us to be here. We should be, in a sense, living in a state of gratitude at every moment. This is our responsibility. And I hope this is what we'll do when we leave this hall.
Thank you so much for your good words, Nemo. And I think one of the things that's really important that we're doing in the Rights of Nature movement is year after year we have been coming to the COP because we insist that the Rights of Nature movement that is really advocating to stop the commodification and financialization of nature really be spoken about here in this space, because this system, what is being negotiated here, is not working. It's taking us further down the road of offsets further down the road of putting nature into the marketplace instead of a place of reciprocity where we are seeing ourselves as part of nature. And so we really wanted to come here and release this report, hear from these wisdom knowledge keepers, and know that there are people all over the world who are advocating for rights of nature, because we deeply know we cannot be in the system and we need a new way of living. And the reference to Cochabamba that Nemo brought up, at that conference, collectively, Indigenous people and many others formed the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth. And you can look that up online, and it's the foundation piece that is meant to be a companion piece to the Universal Declaration on the Rights of Humans, because we have to have both if we are going to be successful. And I think we have time for a question. If we would have anyone in the audience ask a question about rights of nature, we'd be glad to take that from the audience. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? Okay, well, we have a few moments left, and I just would like to give you both the floor if you wanted to have any closing comments, and we'll close out.
Yeah, listening to both of you, thank you so much for deepening my understanding. I hear when I come here a great deal about human rights and indigenous rights. What are we if we're not nature itself? What are we humans but another species that is part of a beautiful, sacred system of life that the Great Spirit put in place as part of an integrated living biosystem that we call Earth, that we call Mother Earth, the one true mother we all share that nurtures and cares for us no matter what. What are we without the breath that they call carbon and try to buy and sell? What are we without the plants, the animals, those that burrow? We cease to exist. So it's not just human rights. It's not just indigenous rights. It is about the rights of nature and recognizing those responsibilities that my relative talks about. We can do this. We can do this.
Absolutely, and I believe that we have to all learn to work in solidarity and be less disruptive. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. Please take a look at the report.